40% of Americans routinely cannot afford food or housing, and 90% of Americans have experienced wage suppression over the last 40 years. That is to say, they're making less right now than they made 20 years ago. Many other countries have they've created automation taxes. A percentage of that profit gets paid as a tax and distributed to infrastructure. And so you could allocate that tax to basic income. And it's something that Columbus could take a step forward in. We could, as a region, say, hey, we believe that humans deserve a basic level of housing, food, stability, and instead of having 5 million different piecemeal programs and all kinds of paper and like proving your human worth, just decide, you know what, instead of forcing people to schlep to agency after agency to prove I deserve like these basic things that everyone should have because they're human, let's just give people $1,000 a month. It's not really enough to like, woohoo, kick back, like Caracas, party on. It's enough to meet your basic needs at a very basic level, right? And for those of us who are hanging on, so just this isn't specific to Columbus, but Columbus isn't outside of these national trends. 40% of Americans routinely cannot afford food or housing. 80% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and 90% of Americans have experienced wage suppression over the last 40 years. That is to say, they're making less right now than they made 20 years ago. Cost of living continues to go up. Last 40 years, cost of living has gone up 69%, wages have gone up 5%. You can see those numbers don't match, right? Like that is not a good way to be able to afford your house, to be able to, 7 million people, this came out earlier this week, 7 million people defaulted on their car loans. Car loans. That's a really bad sign. Most people, that is going to be the bill that you for sure pay. Because even if you are at a place where you can no longer afford your rent, you can at least live in your car, right? You can at least use the car to get to work, to run your errands, to hang on to the facade of living in a society and a culture which in many ways requires in the Midwest that you have a car. 7 million people can't pay their car, defaulted on their car. That's a really bad sign. And do we want to have a continued investment in democracy and making that equitable and accessible to everyone, public education, public transit, public resources? Or do we want to continue to go down this path towards fascism, where we're just like, you're on your own, everyone has to make their own way, like pave your own street, like run your own electrical wire. Like, I don't know how that works exactly, but it's something that we're really in choppy waters. And I'm not trying to overstate the case. When we're talking about, 90% of Americans wage suppression and 80% live in paycheck to paycheck, like those are really startling numbers. Those are numbers that I have not seen in my lifetime. When we're talking about things like people delaying purchase of houses, record all-time lows. People are not having children. They're delaying having children or not having children at all. Starting new businesses, moving across the country for a job, record all-time low. People are just not willing to take that chance. They can't afford to do it. It's too much upfront cost. These are indicators that we should really take seriously. And as leaders and as humans and as neighbors, just even as a basic, I want to be a good neighbor, I want to make sure that other neighbors have dinner, that their house is safe, that they can get to school, that they have a purpose in life, that they feel their life is worthwhile.